Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. It's been a couple days. Full devastation from cruise missile attack on Russian ship comes into view. Satellite imagery shows damage to other parts of a Crimean port after Ukrainian missiles sunk a Russian amphibious landing ship. This event was a big deal. Here's a picture. This is probably the clearest one I can find for you. And that's the ship. The pile of smoldering rubble submerged beneath the water. Now, according to the Russians, the ship is lightly damaged and should be repaired soon. But we know this is nonsense. And an equally important achievement in this attack is the damage to this port. The Russians can no longer dock here and unload. You can see there's 5 operational cranes. And you can tell from this photo that the control booths have been completely burned out. The windows and glass is broken. It looks like the cranes were on fire partially. Additionally, the other ships in the harbor also took damage. Debris of this ship flew up to 1 kilometer away. So we know for sure that this ship right here, this is the before picture, this is the after. This was a training ship that also sank due to the proximity of the explosion. But I'm sure debris flew on all of these ships, partially damaging them in some way. This was a huge blow to the Russian Navy. And this event was so visible, not even the Kremlin could deny it. Kremlin confirms Russian warship hit by a Ukrainian strike. And this is how Olga decided to cover the event on Kremlin state TV. This is what she says. Feodosia's transport infrastructure is now operating as normal. The head of Crimea, Aksionov, has said this. He clarified that during the enemy attack on the town, 1 person died. 6 buildings were damaged and windows were blown out, as he has reported by news agencies citing the Defense Ministry. The armed forces of Ukraine attempted to attack the large landing ship Novocherkassk. 2 Ukrainian Su-24 aircraft were destroyed by air defense systems. In short, Zelensky once again proved his terrorist essence today. So the Russians are saying this was an attempted attack on the ship, and that they shot down the 2 planes that launched the missiles. There's 0 evidence for the claims that Ukrainian planes were shot down, and this is a valid military target. A very big kaboom, because they were unloading missiles and drones, probably from Iran. Not exactly a terrorist act when you go after valid military targets. But Russia's claiming that only 1 person died, when in reality, dozens of crew members on the ship are still missing. How many? According to Astra, a Telegram channel that regularly reports on Russia's military losses, 77 Russian sailors were on board the landing ship at the time of the attack. 19 sailors, unconfirmed reports, were wounded, 33 remain missing. These ships have a pretty large crew, and I guarantee you if they're unloading weapons for the war, they were working around the clock. 3 shifts a day at least. So yes, hundreds of Russian soldiers probably died in this explosion, in this attack, and this is going to set back Russia's operations in Crimea significantly. So let's recap the last 2 years. And Ukraine in 2022 did have some significant achievements striking at the Black Sea fleets. The most famous of all was the sinking of the Moskva, but it's really been picking up since the introduction of these Storm Shadow and Scalp cruise missiles. 20% of Russia's Black Sea fleet has been destroyed just in the last 4 months. This is one of Ukraine's primary priorities, going after these ships, because the goal is to isolate Crimea. Once the bridge is destroyed, the Kerch Bridge eventually will be taken down. If Russia doesn't have these landing ships in the area, they can't support the military on the peninsula, let alone the civilian population. things are going to get interesting. I also want to add, at what point can we stop calling it the Black Sea Fleet and start referring to it as the Black Sea Floor Fleet? You see what I did there? Unfortunately, that was the good news. The bad news is Russia's pretty upset, and when Russia gets upset, they always take it out on civilians. The last 2 nights, the cities of Odesa and Kherson have gotten it the worst. Let me share with you a clip of Odessa's air defense systems going off, trying to shoot down these Iranian Shahed drones. This video was taken from a Turkish commercial ship, once again showing Odessa's air defense systems trying to shoot down these drones while they're still over the water. And the city of Kherson, I don't think I've talked enough about this, has been getting it pretty bad the last couple months. In response to this landing ship being destroyed, Russia decided to blow up the Hon Train Station. So let me share 30 seconds of what the Kherson train station currently looks like. The Russians don't know how to militarily defeat Ukraine. They don't think they can do it. If they thought they could actually defeat Ukraine's military, then they would be using all of their missiles and drones on valid military targets. The fact that every day they continue to bomb train stations, hospitals, coffee shops, kindergartens, churches, it's because they don't know what else to do. They have munitions, they don't know how to defeat Ukraine, so they just continually resort to these acts of terrorism. And I want to put a human face on the loss of this property. This is an American journalist in Kherson. Her name is Zarina Zabrinsky, and she's been documenting the survivors and the victims of these Russian attacks. So she posts these videos every day of just ordinary Ukrainians who have lost their homes, lost their businesses, lost their family members. And I want to share the story of Svetlana.
Мене звуть Світлана, я з Херсона. Внаслідок попадання російського снаряду я залишилася без будинку. На фоні свого будинку я знімаю зараз це відео. У мене немає ні дому, немає нічого. Наслідки руського міра, що після себе залишили. Ось що залишилося від моєї будівлі.
This Ukrainian woman survived Russian occupation. She was liberated. But if Russia can't have her, then they're going to try and kill her, or at the least destroy her home. This is who the Russians are. Let's now switch to the other side of Ukraine, and in the comments section, Russian trolls are still celebrating the capture of Marinka, claiming this is a big deal. So I'm going to continuously remind them that this city, this village, had a pre-war population of less than 10,000 people. In order to capture this, the Russians had to go 3 kilometers in 2 years, while taking hundreds of thousands of casualties. And here is a Russian correspondent visiting the southern part of the village to capture this video. I want to share this with you.
Вот Маринка. Чем, конечно, дерзкую вылазку совершает. Никого нет, видите? Ни машин, ни людей. Вон оно, знамя Победы, знамя 150-й Идринской дивизии. Вот она, наша Маринка.
This clip is then going to show what Marinka looked like before the Russians came, destroying every building and killing every person. This clip aired on Channel 1, Kremlin State TV, like they're proud of it. And I think in the comments section for Russian trolls who really get excited about these kinds of videos, they keep comparing it to the fall of Berlin. You see debris and rubble and destroyed buildings. It's just like the Soviets taking Berlin in 1945. So I hate that I have to speak this out loud, but the difference here is Berlin was not your city. Berlin was the enemy capital, a huge accomplishment for the Soviet army. But Marinka is supposed to be a Russian city, full of Russian people, according to Russia. So when you do this to your own city, how can you declare that a victory? How can that be an accomplishment? That's something I don't understand. For people who support Ukraine, this is obvious. But for anyone watching who supports Russia, how can you justify killing all these people and destroying cities you claim are Russian cities in the Donbass region? I'll never get it. Let's now switch to Putin's upcoming presidential election. Pro-peace presidential hopeful vows to form political party after top court upholds ballot ban. This is the pro-peace candidate, Katerina Dunsova. She wanted to run for president next March, but was kept off the ballot. The official reason is spelling errors on her application. This was according to their election commission. She appealed to Russia's Supreme Court, who, of course, denied her, keeping her off the ballot. And initially I thought she might have been an FSB plant to find dissidents and weed them out. But she actually appears genuine. She believes what she says, and she genuinely wanted to run for president. Now, she's a popular TV caster for her area, a 40-year-old mother of 3. Putin doesn't want to kill or arrest her, but he will if he has to. So the Russian government is just trying to make her go away, telling her to be quiet. She's not allowed to have these opinions, let alone promote them to other Russians. And this brings us to the most incredible clip of the week. It was published on the channel 1420. This is basically like a street interview channel for Russians to get their opinions on things. And this clip, Russian lady tells everything like there's no tomorrow. I'll link this down below if you want to watch the full thing. I'm going to read the first minute and a half for you. This woman is 83 years old. Just being objective here, she's probably not going to live for much longer, and she doesn't fear Putin and his regime. She's willing to speak the truth, one of few in Russia, and here's what she's willing to say on camera for the entire world to see. So this is 1420 asking her about the upcoming presidential elections. She says, "It cannot be called elections. It's a nonsense. Results are already known." I'm going to black out her name because I don't want to see anything bad happen to this woman, but 1420 did publish her name. And he says to her, "I want to tell you about a lady that was going to oppose Putin in the elections." He then explains to her who Katerina Dunsova is and what her positions are. She was disqualified from the elections because she made a paperwork mistake. Why is Putin's opposition being kept out of the elections? This is where this woman goes off. Why are you being such a baby? It's been going on for 20 years. They won't let her in because they already know the outcome. What is the point of elections if it is already known that he will rule for another 6 years? Everyone already knows the result. Are our people so idiotic, so slave-like? I don't understand why people tolerate this. Why do people think this is an election? How is it an election? The results are in. The winner is already known. 1420 then asks her, are the authorities really not letting the opposition into the elections? Gosh, it's clear. Our people are just as dumb and slavish as possible. People were serfs and now they're slaves. Why is there a war going on? Because the people are silent. Our writer Pushkin said 200 years ago that the people are silent. People will keep quiet and tolerate, and once the famine comes, they will still tolerate it. I'm no longer blaming Putin, but our people, who allow themselves to be bullied. Wow. People are allowing it. Our people are completely stupid. People only want to eat, sleep, drink vodka, have a car, and that's it. A scum. The Russian people are scum. This report was brought to you by an 83-year-old woman who doesn't give an F anymore. Wow. So let's talk about Russia's leadership and Dimitri Medvedev, former president of Russia, Putin's right-hand man. And on December 26th of last year, he made predictions for this year, 2023. So let's check in on Dimitri and see how accurate his predictions for 2023 were. Prediction number 1, oil price will rise to $150 a barrel. Gas price will rise to $5 per 1 cubic meter. Well, he was off by about 50%. The price of ICE Brent crude is 78. Dimitri predicted 150. The price of natural gas is $2.50. Once again, Dimitri was off by 50%. He predicted $5. Prediction number 2, the UK will rejoin the European Union. I don't think that happened. The EU will collapse after the UK's return. The euro will drop out of use as the former EU currency. I don't live in Europe, but I'm pretty sure the euro is still being used. And in fact, this year, the euro has appreciated by about 40% compared to the Russian ruble. Prediction number 4, Poland and Hungary will occupy western regions of the formerly existing Ukraine. Prediction number 5, the Fourth Reich will be created, encompassing the territory of Germany and its satellites, Poland, the Baltic states, Czechia, Slovakia, the Kiev Republic, and other outcasts. I do hope in the next couple days Dimitri makes predictions for 2024, because this is comedy gold. Anytime the Russians open their mouth, and there's documented evidence of what they said, all you have to do is wait a certain period of time. A week, a month, 6 months, a year, and it eventually becomes comedy gold. Let's now get to the good news for Ukraine. The United States has released their final package of authorized military aid for Ukraine. The package is worth $250 million and contains the usual stuff: NASAMS air defense missiles, HIMARS ammunition, Stinger missiles, 155mm artillery shells, and Javelin anti-tank missiles. But this is it. The funding for Ukraine, allocated by Congress, officially ran out 3 months ago on October 1st, and Republicans in Congress have been blocking a simple up or down vote for additional military aid to Ukraine. Congress is currently in recess, but as soon as they come back, I'm going to continue trashing any politician that refuses to support Ukraine. This is not a Democrat versus Republican issue. I'm not being partisan. I'm only being pro-Ukraine. And I'm sticking with my position, despite what you guys say in the comments. It is inappropriate to pair military aid to our allies with a completely unrelated topic, border security and immigration reform, which has been broken for 40 years, my entire life, is not going to get solved this month. So tying that issue to additional military aid to Ukraine is a tactic to kill additional military aid to Ukraine. If you can attach unrelated stuff to what should be a standalone vote, you can do that for anything. Republicans can say, unless Joe Biden supports a nationwide ban on abortion, we're not going to allow additional military aid to Ukraine. Unless Joe Biden resigns from the presidency, we're not going to allow additional military aid to Ukraine. Republicans can make any unrelated demand, and all it will do is undermine the trust of our allies, betray our allies, and weaken our standing in the world. So, as soon as Congress comes back in session, we'll keep talking about them. Final couple videos. The first one actually takes place in Russia. I don't want to ruin the surprise, so let's just watch the clip together.
Машинально стряхнуть снег с автомобиля, но в этот раз чутье заставило оглянуться. Владелец уцелел чудом, бетонная плита буквально размолотила белый внедорожник. Конструкция весом под полтонны не сдержала натиска ледяного дождя.
Вышел утром почистить машину ото льда, услышал скрежет на крыше.
So that 83-year-old woman said the reason why young Russians don't rebel is all they want to do is eat, sleep, drink vodka, and have a car. And it looks like this young Russian man just lost his car. This was a debris that fell off the building, completely smashing his vehicle. But I want to highlight what he's wearing. A young Russian man in the capital city wearing a jacket that says Russia in English, and a Tommy Hilfiger beanie cap. Tommy Hilfiger, of course, is an American fashion company, so what are you doing, Russia? Final clip is a success story. This is from Alexei Goncharenko, a member of Ukraine's parliament, highlighting the victory that really is the fact that Ukraine is getting their grain exports out to the world.
Hello to everybody from Odessa, Ukraine, and here is one of victories of Ukraine this year. Just at this moment, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It looks like even seven ships at the same time. That was something which Putin tried to destroy, to stop it, to prevent this to happen. But as you see, Ukraine sends its grain, Ukraine sends its goods to the world market, and that's important. That is saving millions of people throughout the planet from starvation. And that is not on goodwill of Putin, but because of victories of Ukrainian armed forces, heroes of our country, and not only of our country, but of the whole free world. That is the very important war for Black Sea, and Ukraine is winning this war. Don't forget about our successes when this year finishes. Slava Ukraini!
That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.